You're listening to SUSE Radio.
Hello and welcome to the final episode of our four-part series, Open by Design, a SUSE podcast. I'm Georgia Tolley, and so far we've talked about tech, we've talked about evolution, and we've talked about the all-important ROI. Today, we are looking at innovation in action. And joining me for this conversation is Rafiq Anivar from Temenos, and once again as well, Shadi Katab from SUSE. Gentlemen, really lovely to have you with us once again.
Thank you, Georgia.
Thanks, Georgia.
Okay, so Shadi, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk about customer success and what that actually looks like in terms of these, big digital transformations. What does it look like on the ground?
That's a very good and important question for all of them. So the most important question that we always receive is, does any of this actually work? Because in banking today, as we elaborated, the architecture, diagrams, the tech is great, but it's not the most important. They care about the outcomes. They care about the uptime. They care about the audit reports. They care about whether their customer can transfer their money at 2 a.m. without any hiccup. And for them, when we talk with CIOs who has been into this transformation, they never start with the technology. They literally start with what changed in their business. The bank that went from quarter releases to weekly releases to days releases, they broke their monolithic dinosaur application into these microservices minions. They containerized them. They deployed them on Kubernetes, and then they've managed it with that single management SUSE Rancher interface. That for them means their time to market dropped from 3-4 months to 7 days. That's a competitive advantage metric that they are looking for. The bank that survived 10 times traffic spike during a period of promotion, for example, without a single escalation. Kubernetes come with a great value here, which is the auto scaling. So once the workload spikes, it will automatically deploy another minion that will do the serve of that job. So their operation team would watch it, and then on the Rancher dashboard, they will not have the panic or the manual intervention or the customer impact anymore. There will be no more calls across customers saying, is the bank working today? Why I feel that it is too slow? Because automatically it will expand. The bank that pass a regulatory audit in a half of the time, every container they would have scanned by our SUSE security would give them the rest assurance that they are not facing any compromises. Every access governed by our role-based access control will make sure that they are very secured. Every deployment that is being logged in their system would make sure that they are able to audit and to get what they needed. And more importantly, that will all happen through our SUSE observability, a dashboard that will show it to them in a nice graphical interface and not just a lot of line of codes. So that will not be weeks of manual evidence gathering, but a few minutes of exporting all of that as a report. So none of these stories would have started without installing the Kubernetes and moving towards the containerization direction, and of course choosing the open platform or infrastructure that will allow them to have that with freedom. They all start with a business problem that was solved with the technology and operated by the right mentality that we have changed with their teams. And that would be translated to their success, and that would bring them to the outcome that they are looking for from the availability, from the faster time to market with their technology, and from the security of their platform.
Okay, so you've been talking there about success, but how would you actually measure that success? What are the indicators that this transformation is working?
Of course, every CIO, CXO are always having KPIs, the key performance indicators that the bank boards and regulators would care about. The first one can be the deployment frequency. So the banks on the monoliths, they will be deploying technology every quarter or every half a year. Bank on a containerized microservice can do multiple times in 1 week or sometimes daily. And that's again the innovation that we talk about. So tomorrow there is a new feature, there is a new offer. They don't have to do an update that will take 6, 7 months. They will do it and it will be done on a daily basis. The second KPI that they will look at is the MTTR, or the mean time to recovery. And with the Kubernetes, as we've mentioned, the self-healing, the platform itself will check if it has a problem and automatically will restart itself and solve this problem. And with the rancher visibility, we are talking about 4 to 6 hour mean time to recovery that used to happen to an under 15 minutes. In banking, that is a major difference. That is millions of dollars. That is customer trust. The other KPI that is always there is how we can increase the revenue. And that's, of course, by sometimes cost reduction. So the infrastructure cost reduction is a KPI that we are providing to them, because with container and with our subscription value, we are giving it to them at 3, 5 times more resource efficient. One bank can consolidate, as I've mentioned before, thousands of VMs or virtual machines into hundreds of Kubernetes. Then the subscription that they would be providing for the vendor who is providing that technology, in our case, for example, we would be providing that at 4 times less than others. And that will be not just they are making 60% infrastructure reduction, but they're also making 3 to 4 times saving from another technology that they would have used. Auditing readiness time is also very important. So from weeks of manual evidence that they used to provide to a real-time compliance dashboard that with our SUSE observability are providing to them. And with SUSE security come in this SUSE observability, they can get the continuous scanning and the continuous compliance report out of the box without having to get consultants to write them specific codes and specific playbooks. Developer productivity will increase because we have shifted the focus. And as we talked on the DevOps and the DevSecOps, developers now are not fighting infrastructure. They are building faster, and the ratio of the engineers per service is going to improve dramatically. So that is the most important KPIs that they will be looking at, how their deployment frequency is getting faster, how they are going to have the mean time to recovery faster, how they are saving money on their infrastructure and in the subscriptions that they are paying for the software vendors, and how they are able to audit and monitor everything faster and let their team not focus into firefighting and friction, but focus into innovation.
Okay, you've pretty much convinced me, and I'm sure you've pretty much convinced our audience, but can you actually provide examples where this shift has actually made a big difference?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are actually having that with multiple banks that have already seen the shift in and the massive transformation that we have done. But before diving into this, to remind you, we're talking about two topics here. One is the transformation of the infrastructure and the operation. Second is the transformation of the core banking application, and that's come from Temenos' great solution that allow this. From SUSE side, we had this massive bank. The problem that they used to have is that they have been operating for over than 100 years ago. And there has been multiple different applications that they have been using. So they will consider themselves the vendor factory. Whenever there is new software, they used to have and they used to accommodate. But now that make them stuck with all this technology, with legacy technology as well. In order to take them into what we are having today, We had to, and this is usually the SUSE mentality. We partnership with them and we start looking at their current workload. And then we started identifying what of these workloads that can be moved faster in the right new direction. And that is can be on a shift and lift process. And we built a parallel environment for them. And we moved this application that they started feeling the enhancement in that. And then we started looking into their monolithic application. And that's when we worked with their team to define this application and to break down the code and to rewrite them in the new direction of the Kubernetes. This part is not easy and it takes few weeks, but as long as we partner with them, we don't do it as a vendor to a customer relationship. We actually enable their team so that they learn how we are doing it and then they can do the rest. The result of all of that, after they brought this application up and live, we are literally getting the CX comment or their CIO comment saying that now he is able to drop the IT and focus more into what more innovative solution that he is going to bring. We are because we are providing them with an AI platform. He's now looking with us into the whole AI categorization for users now. So, for example, you would like to come and take a loan. It's not going to be any further of a form that you will have to fill. It will be an AI that will understand your category, your age, and it will define how much loan you can take. This process used to take for them at least 3-4 weeks from the time you applied for a loan to the time you get the approval. It is now taking 3 to 4 hours by the AI running all of this, getting all your data, building the other virtual machine, giving the approval, and the spinning on. And that allowed them to expand their business. And finally, and this is the other comment that we got from their CRO, that he could not believe that he's able to enhance the business process and at the same time saving money, because it's usually the other way around. He would be paying money to enhance the technology, but now he's actually making money while enhancing the technology.
Okay, time for me now to turn to Rafiq, because if a customer has been persuaded by everything that they've heard in this podcast series, how can they start with you today?
That's a great question, Georgia. The most important thing for me is to not try to do everything at once. Banks must start with a clear business outcome. They have to focus on a particular use case and build momentum from there. With modern platform like Temenos running on SUSE Rancher, banks can take an incremental approach. They can modernize step by step without disrupting their entire organization. So, in a simple word, it's mainly about progress, not about perfection. And one good thing about Rancher as well is that it's not a major shift of learning. The learning curve to adopt Rancher is something which is really easy, and anyone with classic Kubernetes knowledge can take and start working with Rancher very easily.
Okay, so looking ahead, how do you see, I suppose, customer success evolving in the next few years? What do you expect to see coming out of people using this technology?
We'll see customer success becoming more dynamic and data-driven. Banks will increasingly leverage AI, automation, and real-time insights to personalize experience and also to anticipate customer needs. But the foundation remains the same. It's the ability to adapt quickly and continuously. In a fast-moving environment, the ability to evolve becomes your biggest competitive advantage. And that's what I foresee.
So as we come to the end of this episode, and indeed the end of this series, perhaps, Rafiq, you could summarize the whole idea of innovation in action and customer success for us.
If I have to resume, the customer success in a modern banking is no longer about delivering a single transformation. It's about building the capability to be able to innovate continuously. The bank that succeed for me are not the one who can turn ideas into value quickly. It's also to learn from it and keep evolving. And ultimately, the innovation becomes not something that you do occasionally, but it's something that you do every single day.
Okay, so Shadi, just to finish off, if a customer wanted to embrace this technology, what are the first steps? What would the first, 90 days look like for them?
So, as Rafi has mentioned, we do not believe in a big bang, specifically with banking. We would like to create an approach here. That approach can start giving them the confidence and building this plan. The first thing that they can have, for example, is looking into a non-critical workload, in a workload that they are easily open to move. And then they can have with that the containerization methodology that we are going to build with them. And this can be the proof of concept and the proof of value that they will be able to see. And then we are running that in a container platform, and we start the securing with that, so that we are showing the security team the meat and the needs that they were looking for, and then they can expand that with confidence. This is the plan that we can look at, and it can be a plan of not 2 years, but rather a plan of 2 to 3 weeks of them seeing that impact. And then when we look at how we can take that into a real framework, we can look into a concrete of 90 days framework, where we can start with them in the first month, assessing the existing infrastructure, assessing the existing applications that they are having, understanding the mean time to recovery that they were having before, and enhancing it, and identify the 3 candidates that they can be taken to this infrastructure. Then looking at the second 30 days, by proving that this works, we build the container platform, we move that workload to it, and we measure that everything is as per their expectation. And then the last 30 days will be to scale all of that from a medium to a more complex workload. And we define then the multi-cluster strategy and the multi-cloud strategy that they will work on. And of course, onboarding Temenos to all of that. So in a 90-day framework that is breaking down into 30 each, we can have them in the 3 steps of assessing, proving the technology, and scaling it.
Rafiq, Shadi, thank you very much indeed for joining us for this 4-part series. It's been brilliantly informative. I'm sure all our listeners have a clear sense of just how useful, just how transformative this technology can be. And we've really learned that being open by design isn't just a technical choice, it is, in fact, a competitive necessity. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.
Georgia, thank you so much for this podcast, and I hope that it has been beneficial for everyone who's listening to us, as we look forward to hearing from them, and we are here to help them with their transformation journey. And Rafiq, thank you so much for your insights and the great explanation for Temenos solution.
Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Shadi. I really enjoyed the deep dive today, and I hope our listeners found it as engaging as we did.
And thank you to everyone who's been listening to this series. Remember, you can find all 4 episodes and a whole lot more information on the SUSE and the Temenos website. So that's SUSE.com and Temenos.com. I'm Georgia Tolley, and this podcast series has been Open by Design.